Dr. Keith again here, talking about inflammations, and the next one is actually sugar. Now, I know we've done food allergies, but this is something else, trust me. Sugar, I think, is without doubt the most inflammatory substance that we put into our bodies. It's terribly destructive. It damages your arteries, your heart. It damages everything, basically, because it's not very natural. And at the end of the line, if you have too much sugar, you're going to be unable to process it. We'll look at insulin resistance in the next video. But basically, sugar will overwhelm the system and you end up with a condition called diabetes. Now, diabetes just means too much urine because it's concentrated with sugar and it sucks out lots of liquid, so you have a lot of urine. Diabetes mellitus means sweet urine, because in the old days they used to dip it in the tube, lick it and think, it's a bit sweet. So he's got diabetes mellitus. The other kind of diabetes was tasteless, so they called it diabetes insipidus. But anyway, back to sugar. So centuries ago, sugar was staggeringly expensive. Only the rich people could afford it, and they couldn't afford or didn't use very much anyway. The average person in England in the 17th century, I would say, no, 18th century, about £4 per person per year. That's an average. Some people wouldn't have any, so somebody else would be having £6, £7 or £8. But that's risen, just relentlessly risen in the last 200 years to the point where the average person in the USA now downs about 180 pounds of sugar, which is a monumental amount of sugar. It's like the equivalent of me in sugar. And so also, down your throat, basically, carrying around the equivalent number of bags to my weight. That's one thing, but now I'm talking about eating it going into your system and it's screwing you up. Anyway, no question that sugar is highly inflammatory. There isn't much to say about it, except don't do it, basically. Get rid of your sweet tooth. Now, I know there are substitutes out there like, well, first of all, stay away from the deadly poison ones like aspartame and sucralose and those things. But there's stevia and certain other vegetable sweeteners. These are not a good idea because they encourage your palate to it's still seeking the sort of sweetness thrill. What you've got to do is just re-educate your palate to where it doesn't need to be so sweet. And if you avoid sugar altogether, yes, it might seem horrific at first. You don't know, one of the worst things you can imagine. It can be very trying, I admit. But then after a couple of weeks, you arrive in a state where a carrot tastes very sweet. There's a lot of sugar in a carrot. So if you have, if you've got the sweet tooth, you boil a few carrot pieces and eat those. They're really like sweeties. There's enough sugar in them anyway to amuse your palate. And this is what I mean by change your palate. Don't use substitute sweeteners. If you must use some kind of sugar substitute, I think the sugar alcohols like xylitol and sorbitol are probably your best choice. But by far the best choice is to just do away with the desire for sweet things. I can't put it any plainer than that, really. If you want something sweet, eat an apple or a banana or something like that. Berries, by the way, are very good because they are very low in sugar. Strawberry, raspberry, blueberries, blackberries. These are extremely low in natural sugars anyway. Okay, so that's sugar. Deadly. Cut it out.